Welcome back to Simply Explained.
South Carolina player, a Dawn Staley minion. Just 2 weeks ago, went on I Am Athlete on a podcast, called Caitlin Clark fans racist in front of everybody. And it's amazing. There's a subsection of fans out there that are willing to eat crap from the WNBA.
The Indiana Fever are sitting on the most valuable asset women's professional basketball has ever seen. Sold-out arenas, record-breaking viewership, and millions of fans who had never watched a WNBA game in their lives suddenly buying jerseys, flying across the country, and tuning in every single night. Caitlin Clark didn't just join the Fever. She resurrected the entire franchise and arguably saved the league's relevance in the process. And somehow, the organization is doing everything in their power to burn it all down. In the span of a single week, the Indiana Fever managed to alienate their core fan base, trigger a public relations disaster that is still spiraling, and raise serious questions about whether this front office even understands what they have. Paying customers are publicly announcing they are done. Season ticket holders are reconsidering, and the decisions that caused all of this, they are somehow getting worse. Here is exactly what happened.
And never mind the logistical issues that the draft pick causes. The Indiana Fever went on a rampage yesterday on social media, on their Twitter X, trying to get you fired up for Raven Johnson. And then they made the mistake of asking you to buy tickets.
The channel that breaks down everything happening in sports without the noise, without the corporate spin, and without wasting your time. If you are new here, you picked a good video to start with, because what we are about to get into is one of the most talked about controversies in women's basketball right now. And trust me, it is wilder than the headlines suggest. Before we dive in, if you enjoy honest, straight-to-the-point sports coverage, hit that subscribe button and drop a like on this video. It genuinely helps this channel grow and keeps content like this coming. Alright, let us get into it, because this story has layers that most people are completely missing.
They went on social media asking for you to buy tickets as a consumer of their product. Ooh. The backlash? Oh, it is. There's two of these, by the way. There's another one. Well, what are you waiting for? Come and join the show. Additional single game ticket.
2 weeks before the draft, a player named Raven Johnson sat down for a podcast appearance on I Am Athlete and said something that would set the entire Fever fan base on fire. Johnson, a product of Dawn Staley's South Carolina program, did not just hint at tension between certain fans and WNBA players. She did not carefully word a nuanced take about a fringe group of bad actors. She painted Caitlin Clark's entire fan base with one broad stroke and called them racist. On a public platform, in front of everybody, not some fans, not a vocal minority, the whole fan base. Now, to be clear, this was a public interview that was widely covered and reported on across sports media, so this is not rumor or speculation. Johnson said what she said in front of a live audience and a microphone. The comments spread quickly, and the reaction from Clark's fan base was immediate and sharp. These are people who had spent money on tickets, travel, merchandise, and league subscriptions because of their investment in watching Caitlin Clark compete at the highest level. Being told publicly that their support is rooted in racism did not sit well. What made it even more loaded was the timing. This was not some old, resurfaced clip. This was fresh. This happened 2 weeks before the draft. 2 weeks before the Indiana Fever, the organization those fans financially support would make a decision that nobody saw coming. And what happened next genuinely stunned people. Monday night, with their first-round draft pick, the Indiana Fever selected Raven Johnson. The same organization that built a sold-out arena on the backs of Caitlin Clark's fan base used a premium draft asset on a player who had just publicly insulted those fans 2 weeks earlier. The reaction was not slow building. It was instant and it was brutal. Within hours, the replies were flooding in from people who were not casual observers venting online. These were paying customers. Fans who had flown from Georgia, from Texas, from the West Coast specifically to watch games in Indianapolis last season. Fans who had already been budgeting for league pass renewals and single-game tickets. People who had been genuinely excited about the direction of the roster after the Sophie Cunningham signing in free agency, a move that had real momentum and genuine enthusiasm behind it. The Johnson pick reversed all of that overnight. Comments were rolling in from season ticket holders saying they were reconsidering renewals. Fans who were about to purchase WNBA League Pass saying that $40 was now going toward gas instead. People who had planned trips to Indianapolis saying they would redirect that money toward Atlanta Dream games. And the tone of all of it was not just anger, it was betrayal. These fans had invested emotionally and financially in this franchise because they believed the front office was building something worth believing in. Monday night made a lot of them question whether that belief was ever warranted. But the front office was not done yet. The day after the draft, the Indiana Fever posted a ticket sales promotion on their social media. The timing alone was bold. The content made it worse. The promotional image they chose featured Caitlin Clark, the most marketable player in women's sports, the reason attendance tripled last season, the player whose face sells every product associated with this franchise, pushed to the edge of the frame, partially hidden. Positioned behind Kelsey Mitchell, with more of Aaliyah Boston visible than the woman who single-handedly changed the financial trajectory of this organization. Fans noticed immediately. In any other context, this might be dismissed as a minor design decision, but given the week this organization was having, given the mood of the fan base after the Johnson pick, this landed like a statement. Not an accident, a statement. And the replies to that post reflected exactly that interpretation. Hundreds of responses, almost none of them from fans rushing to buy seats. Instead, it was a wave of people explaining precisely why they were not spending money on this organization right now. The social media team either had no read on how inflammatory this would be given the current climate, or they genuinely believed fans would show up regardless of how they felt. Both explanations are deeply concerning. One signals a complete disconnect from the fan base. The other signals an arrogance about fan loyalty that the numbers are already starting to contradict. And underneath all of this was a frustration that had actually been building since last season. The Raven Johnson pick did not land on neutral ground. It landed on top of frustration that had been quietly building throughout all of last season. Frustration aimed directly at head coach Stephanie White and the system she ran. White spent last season playing Caitlin Clark off-ball, not as the engine of the offense, not in the role that made her the most electrifying player in women's basketball. As a spot-up shooter standing in the corner while other players initiated and ran the offense. Think about what actually brought millions of new viewers to women's basketball. It was not a slow, grinded-out system with methodical half-court sets. It was logo threes from 30 feet. It was no-look passes that made highlight reels every single night. It was a fast-paced, high-scoring, chaotic, and brilliant style of play that Clark ran at Iowa and turned into a cultural moment. That version of Caitlin Clark got shelved in Indiana. Fans tolerated it last season because they held onto the belief that the front office understood what they had and was working towards something, that the growing pains were temporary, that management had a vision. The Johnson pick destroyed that belief because it raised an unavoidable question. If the front office truly understood the value of their asset, why would they spend a first-round pick on a developmental backup point guard for a team that already has the best point guard in the sport? The basketball case for this pick simply does not hold up. After getting drafted, Raven Johnson sat down for a follow-up interview and walked back what she had said on the podcast. The tone was different. The language was more careful. She said the right things. And for a segment of the fan base, that was enough. Move on. Give her a chance. Judge her by what she does on the court. But a much larger portion of the fan base is not accepting that so easily, and their reasoning is worth understanding. When Johnson made those comments on I Am Athlete, she was not under contract with the Indiana Fever. She was not professionally obligated to manage her image in relation to this organization or its supporters. She said what she said on a public platform because she believed it and because she did not anticipate consequences severe enough to worry about. That is the version of Raven Johnson that revealed her actual thinking. The version sitting in a post-draft interview, newly signed, professionally invested in her relationship with the organization and her teammates, saying the right things for the cameras. That version is operating under an entirely different set of incentives. Fans are making that distinction loudly and publicly, and it is fueling the distrust rather than cooling it. The cleanup did not clean much up. What it did do is draw even more attention back to the original comments and remind everyone exactly what was said and when. And that is pulling a much bigger question into focus. In 1919, the Boston Red Sox sold Babe Ruth to the New York Yankees. They needed the cash. It seemed like a manageable decision at the time. What followed was one of the most legendary cautionary tales in sports history. 86 years without a championship. A curse so famous it got its own name. A generational fumble that defined a franchise's identity for nearly a century. The comparison is starting to circulate online, and it is not hard to see why. The speculation is growing that the Indiana Fever may be mishandling their own once-in-a-generation talent in a way that will define this franchise for years to come. Now, to be clear, this is speculation. Nobody knows how Caitlin Clark's future with Indiana ultimately plays out. But the pattern of decisions is what is making people nervous. Unlike the Ruth trade, which at least brought the Red Sox money they desperately needed, this draft pick brought the Fever, a player who alienated their core fan base before ever putting on the uniform. There is no upside in that exchange that offsets the damage. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark's representation is watching every single one of these decisions. The WNBA does not have unrestricted free agency structured the way other leagues do, but players find leverage in different ways. And every organizational misstep, every questionable coaching call, every public relations disaster is a data point that factors into long-term conversations about where a player's future is best served. This situation is bigger than one franchise making bad decisions. The stakes extend to the entire league because of what Caitlin Clark represents for women's basketball right now. She did not just sell tickets for the Indiana Fever. She pulled millions of people into the orbit of a sport they had never engaged with before. New viewers, new fans, people who had never watched a WNBA game in their lives, tuning in, buying merchandise, talking about women's basketball in spaces where it had never been part of the conversation. But here is the reality of that moment. Those people are not WNBA fans yet. They are Caitlin Clark fans who are in the process of deciding whether they want to become WNBA fans. That is a completely different thing, and the window to convert that interest into lasting investment in the league is narrow. Estimates suggest maybe 2 or 3 seasons before casual observers either commit or move on entirely. If what those new viewers see during that window is Clark standing in a corner running someone else's offense in a system that does not showcase what made her must-watch television, they will leave. And based on human behavior with entertainment products, they will not come back. The Fever's ticket sales backlash and the fan revolt playing out publicly right now are the early warning signs. These are not casual complainers. These are invested, paying customers, sending a clear signal. The question is whether anyone inside that organization is actually listening. And based on the decisions made this week, that is genuinely unclear. Here is the question that every Fever fan, every WNBA observer, and honestly everyone watching women's basketball right now is sitting with. Does this organization deserve Caitlin Clark? Does a front office that drafts a player who called their fans racist 2 weeks earlier, hides their franchise player on the edge of promotional photos, and runs a system that neutralizes her greatest strengths, does that organization deserve to build around the most valuable player women's professional sports has ever produced? More and more people are answering no. And in professional sports, when your paying customers lose faith in your decision-making, everything else becomes secondary. Championships, rosters, systems. None of it matters if the people buying the tickets stop showing up. The Indiana Fever have a generational talent and a closing window. What they do next will either prove the doubters wrong or confirm every fear their fan base already has. History will not be kind if they get this wrong. Stay locked with my channel, Simply Explained, for further WNBA updates.